So, signal me if I don't have a good volume level. I mean, I can look at the door.
This is Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters. That's everyone out there. Every one of you. And welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. We just want to hear what you think, what your opinions are, what your views are on the topics that we choose. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or 8317. And in the studio today, Shelley Rugg.
Hello.
Directing the spacecraft. Stephen Hurwitz.
Hello there.
Spacey as always.
More so today.
And I'm Paul Raffel, sober as a judge. And today,
speaking of that, what are we talking about?
We are talking about cannabis. Yes, cannabis.
Weed,
ganja, marijuana. Now, there's an interesting way to start the show. I received an email from a Tamales resident who says, this is Venta, she says, I'm on a mission to eradicate the word marijuana from our vocabulary. It was invented by Harry Anslinger as part of his racist propaganda, killer weed being brought in by Mexican rapists campaign to save his job heading the Federal Prohibition Enforcement Agency.
Wow.
When that came to an end, it was aimed at the beginnings of the civil rights movement, an easy way to jail people of color and take away their voting rights. Yes, so I looked up about the good Harry Anslinger, and sure enough, he was head of the Prohibition Regulation Department, and he was going to be out of a job after Prohibition, and he started this thing, because the Mexican, became the scourge, the same thing that's happening now.
Well, yes, we all know only people of color use drugs, right?
Well, exactly. So,
like sell them.
Well, now, then you look more into it, and you start to see how all those Schedule I drugs, why cannabis is a Schedule I drug, the same as heroin and cocaine and all those other things that are supposed to be so terrible. Heroin was being used by everybody. Mums and dads used it for pain killing and for putting the kids to sleep and stuff.
Don't forget Coca-Cola.
Well, cocaine as well, yeah, heroin and cocaine. So heroin was the first one because the Chinese laborers who were coming here to build the railroads had obviously a cultural tradition of smoking opium, and that was seen as a terrible threat. And so it was a way to enforce racism against the Chinese workers who were building this country, but they weren't American.
And to think that the Mayflower, all they brought over was hollyhocks,
hollyhocks and beer, and so they so that's when that started happening, when heroin became this terrible drug. But it's
all political.
Even if junkies can get heroin, they live, and everything's fine. It's when they can't get it, or if it's cut because it's illegal, it's cut with other things, terrible things, and they're cutting it with opioids now, and fentanyl and heroin together is not a good combination. So anyway, that was heroin. Cocaine, of course, was because of, I think it was just jazz. People didn't, those black people smoking, using cocaine.
I've heard other stories, but
yeah. Anyway, so it's a sad history of why cannabis should be considered the same as that. People like to say cannabis never killed anybody.
Well, it didn't.
Yeah.
And so much death and destruction connected with alcohol. which was once prohibited.
That didn't work too well.
Alcohol. I mean, well, it was how many years though?
It is
13 years or something.
It is the most abused drug.
Alcohol is far more deadly than, certainly than.
Yeah, well, so it's very political.
Yes, here we are. Cocaine was criminalized after the Civil War when black Americans were forgetting their place, and some of them were using cocaine because, for pain and all that, as were other people, as were white people, but it became this colored drug, right? Oh, man.
Well, back in the 70s when I first came to California as a newly minted member of the California Bar, I was defending boys and girls who were arrested for possession of weed. It was a very interesting process. Lots of people being arrested for possession, and a lot of times under false pretenses. Oh yeah, we smelled it, and then they barged in. There they were. But there were so many that in San Francisco they created this thing, a diversion program, where it was just a rubber stamp. They just couldn't handle all the people that were being arrested. So I felt like a travel agent, really. Helping people get through a dangerous system with the least amount of harm. Really, that's what I did.
That's very good of you.
And back at that time, though, we were saying, why can't we legalize this? Why isn't this legal?
Yeah.
It took us 50 years to this point.
In California.
In California. It seems like there's a momentum now that's...
9 other states.
Yeah. Well, now that the big corporations are making money, I mean, it's a huge...
You're going off the scale. Though.
It's a huge business. It's a huge industry. And those who have the means to engage in that business... and the way that they have to engage in business practices nowadays, growing indoors and all the packaging and labeling. I just went to Jenner this last weekend, and we stopped in Gualala, I think it was, at a little cannabis shop. And it was a very informal, small little shop. And so we asked the guy about, all of the packaging, and he said that's the regulations. You can't just take it out of a jar, measure it, and put it into a bag. You must have it in a sealed jar with all this labeling, and it's just so far from what's basically growing.
In the good old days, right, when you were...
You put a seed in the ground, and the sun shines on it, and it grows.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you pull it out of the ground and dry it, and use it for a number of things.
In every temperate climate. I mean, let's face it.
And so to have to put it in a building with...
so this is part of that's part of the problem, is that Stevie turned me on to. This is why we're discussing this. Stephen uncovered some environmental issues involved with even where it is legalized to grow, even when they're licensed growers. In some states, I'm not sure about California actually, but they do like to have it indoors so that it's secure.
Well, in the indoors they have control over the product.
They can tweak the potency.
Yeah, and they can achieve more harvests in a shorter period of time using all the lighting. But the lighting is a huge draw on electricity. So when you're smoking or chewing one of those little gummy bears or whatever, you have to realize that this is not necessarily as environmentally friendly as your neighbor growing a few plants in the backyard. First of all, the thing that that's disappointing to me is it's really just been a big gift to big tobacco and the big beverage companies, alcohol beverage and tobacco. Right. They're the ones that are investing big time. Right now it's in Canada because Canadian have legalized it countrywide, but to the tune of billions of dollars, really. And eventually it will be consolidated into divisions of whoever.
Yeah.
And so we'll be getting our products again, from the very same people who we'd like to shut down in the first place.
Well, maybe it would be nice if we could develop, a system for the boutique growers. Let's say, the difference between going to the supermarket and getting pastries and going to Bovine and getting pastries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One's in a plastic wrap package, and one just came out of the oven.
Right. So is it time to become more discerning in what you're using, whether it's for medical
Like
reasons
everything.
or for enjoyment? Should you be looking for organic? Should you be looking
I was
for
going to just say that certainly this stuff isn't being organically grown either. So
Some is.
Yeah, some is. But I think if you're talking about the mainstream large quantities of marijuana, cannabis, Venta, I think that it's hydroponic. It's there's no dirt involved.
Right,
There's
big
little
warehouses
wormies
and
swimming
shelves.
around in there, and in large greenhouses that are using vast amount of electricity. What was it? 3% of all the electricity in California.
That's 2 years ago, which is actually, when did it become legalized growing? I guess it was longer than that. But 2 years ago, 3% of California's energy bill
energy use is going to cannabis.
Indoor grows.
So that means that it's really a function of what your energy mix is. So if coal is your primary source of energy, then you are puffing more than THC.
You're contributing to the huge carbon footprint of this country.
Oh, my goodness.
Who would have thought, Who would have thought?
If you want to get in on this conversation about cannabis, please call 415-663-8492 or 8317, and we'll put you on the air.
One of the things that I find ironic, really, though, is that cannabis has been packaged in so many ways. It's being marketed in candy form, which I find a little disconcerting.
Disquieting.
I mean, gummy bears, that is a very attractive nuisance, in my opinion.
Gummy bears lying around in a house with kids?
Yeah.
Not safe.
I didn't come here to complain about marijuana. I've 50 years struggled to get it legalized.
Yeah.
And here I am, not even being able to make happy now.
But so the problem is, so we were all hoping that part of the reason that there was a push for legalization is that the illegal grows, the outdoor growing, was polluting. They were taking water, they were spraying pesticides everywhere. The big grows out in the national park lands, where it's usually kind of cartels or whatever.
Right.
It was cartels.
Yeah.
They're very underground. Yeah.
Guarded with weapons,
guns and dogs.
Lines,
exactly.
All kinds of stuff. And so that was part of the reason for legalizing it, is that the violence involved in having illegal grows all over the place in the wilderness, where people might just stumble across it, going out on your little walk in the woods. Oh, hello. And the pesticide use was huge, and they're, stealing
herbs,
water, taking water from the streets, and, all that stuff. So now, because of tighter regulations over it, because it's such a dangerous drug, this indoor growing is using lots of energy, and it's still not a clean product, really. It's still not organic. There's no, as you said, there's no soil involved. It's all chemicals running through the roots and Yeah.
Well,
everyone should just grow their 6 plants.
I think so too. It's very upsetting to see the sort of corporate takeover of this product, and corporate takeover of any product means that they want to drive down the small producers or take them over or buy them out.
Yeah, well, the strategy is to underprice the product to the point where the small guys can compete, and then consolidate, and then raise the prices. That's really the strategy. But one of the positive sides, though, is this used to be or maybe still is a huge source of income for the Mexican cartels, and they're finding it harder to make a living. because of it, and so I think that's a real positive side. And getting them out of the business.
Yeah.
And
violent people are now good American corporations and Canadian.
But your little boutique grower is having a hard time because the price has plummeted for a pound of weed.
Right.
So
we have a caller on the line. And caller, make sure you turn down your phone, watch your language, and you're on the air. Tell us your name.
Good morning, people.
Good morning.
It's MK in Seattle.
Hi, MK.
Hi.
Hi.
This is an interesting subject. As far as medical stuff goes, marijuana has been legal in Washington for a number of years. Now it's very easy to come by and not expensive if you know the right guys and the right shops to go to and so on and so forth. I have Parkinson's, as you know, and I'm on a talking blurby thing on Facebook with a bunch of other women who have Parkinson's, and we're all sort of talking about what's prescribed for us and how to handle the different things that come up in this sickness. And I use cannabis on a daily basis in the evenings instead of the glass of wine, and it's not the kind without THC, it's the kind with it. And it's a great relaxer. It's very interesting that I didn't want to bring it up on this page that I'm on because I don't know the people, and you sort of go tiptoeing around a little bit before you get started. But more and more I'm seeing people relax into saying that they use either CBD or edibles or tinctures or smoking.
Right.
I don't do that. And on, and it really does work.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a shame that it's so demonized, and so it's all about money. It has nothing to do with anything about except control and money. And there are sicknesses like this one that there's a lot of pain involved, and there's nothing that can be prescribed that I've found, and nothing over the counter that helps, and cannabis does.
Yeah.
Well, there's been an explosion of discovery in terms of cannabis's medicinal value.
Yeah.
Well, you're finally able to study it, right? The
but
effects.
until somebody
it's
finds
just the beginning, actually.
a bundle on it, it's not going to be available in a medical quote in a medical sense.
Yeah. When my dad was living with me, he used to use a sleeping pill at night, and it would cause him to walk in his sleep and ingest large quantities of really strange things like a whole bottle of oil or mayonnaise or just really weird stuff.
Yeah.
And he had no memory of it whatsoever, or he'd put something in the microwave and it would explode, So we switched him to cannabis cookies. And he loves peanut butter, he loves cookies, so we made peanut butter cookies with cannabis, and we'd give him a cookie at bedtime.
It worked.
And he loved the cookie, and it helped him get through the night.
I don't even mind having a few of those myself.
It could be arranged. And then, I know somebody who had an opioid addiction. Now, opioid addiction, is huge in America right now.
Right.
And this person was actually able to come off of the opioids by ingesting pure cannabis oil concentrate.
And there will be people that say, okay, you're just substituting one drug for another, but that's baloney. That's very surface.
Right, and unlike the opioids, if you can get off the opioids with the cannabis, then you can easily stop the cannabis. But the opioids aren't so easy to get over.
Opioids are highly addictive and do terrible things to your organs, to your body. Whereas cannabis, as far as we know,
I think if you smoke it, it's hard on your lungs.
Sure, yeah.
But you don't have to do that. I mean, there's so many. I mean, the stores are crazy.
That's a bit of a myth, though, that there are no harmful side effects from cannabis.
Well,
I'm sure that's true, and it just depends on the person.
Tell me more, Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah, what do you got in mind?
Stephen.
Tell us about all these harmful side effects.
Cough it up.
Well, no, sadly, I didn't print out all my notes, but there is a study, I think I sent a copy of it to Paul, increased influence on schizophrenia, for example. And
it makes it worse?
Yes.
Exaggerates the symptoms?
It actually can develop schizophrenia, and they did studies of high school students and violence, and students who used marijuana and violence, and students who used only alcohol and violence, and they found out that the students who used cannabis, were more likely to be involved in aggressive behavior than the alcohol, which was shocking.
I'm sorry. What's the resource on this?
Hold a second. I'm just saying something.
What?
That's just really hard to believe.
Yeah.
I know. I found it hard to believe,
No
too.
judgment here, but what?
I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't control myself.
You know, it's thrilling to me that I want to say something that will get that kind of a reaction.
You call in if you want to say,
What?
Really seriously, we've all been in bars and seen the fights that happen in bars, and we've known alcoholics who are violent.
I think the other guys will be just fighting very slowly.
That's
It's
Like a
slow
sloth.
motion. Yeah. Oh, I like your kung fu.
But interestingly enough, what if they're right? What if in fact that the information does go in the face of our really commonly held deeply seated beliefs that a cannabis user falls asleep when the other guy's going for his gun, whatever it is. You hear everything about how peaceful and how nobody talks about the statistics of I'm a proponent of using it, obviously, but nobody talks about automobile collisions and the statistics regarding that.
Well, driving impaired is not a good idea.
So I'm just saying, it's not benign.
I think that we do need to keep in mind that there are a lot of entities that put out disinformation, and so it's really important to check the sources for whatever information we get.
No question about
and
it.
it's just that one really pushed my button. I'm sorry about that.
But no judgment.
Oh, I think I sent that to you. Can you look that up?
I was looking for it because I didn't save it because I thought, is that guy the one?
Yeah, I know. I'm so sloppy.
There is no scientific evidence of him. He was just a complete naysayer. He's obviously an abolitionist. He's somebody who wants to do away with it. He probably invested in other drugs rather than. He was saying a lot of things that kind of, Anyway, there are, this being West Marin and Seattle, there are many people here with experience with cannabis. So give us a call, 1-241-5-663-8492 or 8317.
Paul, is that they're having. Like on major holidays and stuff, they have the cops out looking for drunk drivers, and they're also looking for impaired drivers.
Yeah.
And they have these new tests and stuff. If you're not walking the line, I don't know. I don't drive, so it's not I haven't had that.
I heard that the answer is my lawyer told me to be quiet. But we do have another caller.
Okay, I'll get off.
Oh, thanks, MK. You can stay if you want, but
bye.
Bye. Caller, you are on the air. Please tell us your name.
Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Sally.
Hello.
Keep it clean.
Damn it. I was going to, but now you've challenged me. Marijuana is CBD and THC, right? So smoking and ingesting, the THC, it's so much stronger than it used to be. We all know this. It's like exponentially so. But I do recall that you drive more slowly when you're stoned. This is... Hello? Why do I hear an echo?
Oh, now because the other line is on now.
You have
The
to
person,
pot that down.
it is potted down.
It's all the way down, so.
So, person on the other line, can you turn your radio off, please? You're in the system, and we can hear you through the system. Thank you very much. We'll be with you in a moment.
Oh, excellent directive.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Well, you know.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Oh, goodness. And also, so CBDs, I guess to have certain healing qualities, CBDs have to have a little bit of THC in there. So you're talking about sort of complex chemistry here. I also do recall that, and this is purely my own sort of observation, so it's like ascientific. But I have known people, mostly men, who have been really, really sort of seemingly addicted to smoking pot, who were kind of suppressing rage a little bit, as like a rage suppressant. On the other hand, I've known highly creative, gentle sort of guys who are just sweetie pies, and they also love to be really stoned, and it helps creative process. I just think the difference in medicinal use and recreational use is, it's going to get so confused in legislation, I can imagine. And I also worry about corporations, sort of pharmaceutical corporations, co-opting this whole Megillah.
Right.
And that's, I guess, is my big concern, because I like the idea of entrepreneurial individuals and groups of people having these companies of being growers.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a good friend who is who is an HR expert, and she helps all these companies to become compliant. All these small companies, and even some bigger ones who have been kind of just doing their own thing all this time, and now that it's legal, she's helping them learn how to have the right programs and employee handbooks, and how to treat employees, and how to be generally compliant. So there's a lot going on.
Right.
And that's really all I know, so I can leave now. And
I just want to question one thing you said, though. Before you take off, you said something about cannabis drivers drive more slowly, so that...
it used to be my experience as such, and I had read that. But again, that's 150 years ago, and I was a mere youth.
I was just going to say, reaction time, though, when you're stoned is a little different than when you're straight.
Sure.
There's no
I just remember struggling to drive the speed limit. I was always going like 40, and I did read that this was a thing, but who knows what the source of the study or who was reporting that? And again, it's really antiquated information. So who knows? I believe that they have certain kinds of mixtures or strains that would probably make you really, really super hyper, and other kinds that mellow you out. And so go figure.
It's hard to know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the chat.
Thanks for calling, Sally.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. We have a caller waiting, and I'm going to do our underwriters. And so, caller, hang on. You are listening to Let's Talk Call-In Radio on KWMR, Point Reyes Station, 90.5 in Point Reyes, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. KWMR is supported by the Bolinas Hearsay News, serving the Bolinas community since 1974. Information at 415-868-0138 during office hours, 9 a.m. to noon on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or anytime by email at 868hearsay@gmail.com. The Bolinas Hearsay News is available at most downtown businesses. KWMR is supported by Marin Sun Farms, a local agricultural producer since 1999, with a full-service butcher shop and steakhouse on Highway 1 in Point Reyes Station, offering 100% grass-fed beef and lamb, pasture-raised chicken and pork, organic eggs, tallow soaps, hand-tanned sheepskins, and more. Lunch and dinner, Thursday through Monday, online at marinsunfarms.com. And we're talking about cannabis, and let's see if our caller is still on the line. Caller, you're on the air, or what's your name? Okay, please call back.
Do call back, won't you?
We'd love to hear from you.
The number is 415-663-8492. And yes, we're talking about cannabis, the highs and lows.
Oh, that was so funny.
The pros and cons of cannabis increased cannabis production. Who's going to be growing it? How are they going to be growing it? And where? And what's going to happen to the growers who really have done all the research in the past and have made great strides in cannabis? Oh, will there be GMO cannabis? Of course there will.
Oh, boy. We do have the caller. Caller, you are on the air. What's your name?
My name is Fred.
Hey, Fred. Thanks for calling.
Hi. I'm here in sunny in Hawaii, by the way.
Oh, wow. Thanks for listening all over there.
We went to Uncle Robert's Awa Club last night, and there was marijuana being smoked all over the place, even though it's illegal here. I'm sorry, cannabis.
Thank you.
But one of the restrictions is research, because it's a Schedule I drug. And I read a book a couple years ago called The Addictive Brain. And it's kind of funny because cannabis is not addictive. But, of course, heroin is physically addictive and cocaine and so forth. But anyhow, in the 1950s, early 1950s or late 40s, they medical researchers discovered the endocannabinoid system in your brain. Well, not only in your brain, but in your stomach and all over your body. And it's related to the same kind of chemical molecular structure as cannabis.
Yeah.
The cannabis effect goes to your brain receptors and then releases, it actually supports the anti-inflammatory system, the immune system.
Yeah.
And so consequently, there may be something that's anti-carcinogenic in cannabis because the Danes did a study for 22 years on smokers, and they found out that the people who smoked the most had the least amount of lung cancer.
Well,
so
isn't that
it's a very, very interesting plant because it manifests itself in all different isomers. You can do all kinds of things with it, and the sativas tend to make you hyper, and it's very mental, and the indicas put you to sleep and make you very relaxed. So the more you know about it, the better. And this guy, the librarian from San Francisco, wrote a whole book about it, and he discovered that the best ratio is a 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio because the CBD takes the anxiety away from the THC.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah. So anyhow, I've been watching Murder Mountain, which is on Netflix.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
A whole series about this little town, Alder. It's in southern Humboldt County, and legalization is not a good thing. I mean, the only good thing about it is, like for example, in the city of Berkeley, and now in the state of California too, it has to be tested, and you cannot have any pesticides show up. It has to be organic.
Excellent.
And but the black market is thriving because the legal market, the prices have gone down, and the black market, they can still make deals with people from back east and states where it's illegal, and they can get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a pound. And and in California, where it's legal now, the prices have gone down, as you talked about before, and it's just not financially feasible to grow under lights anymore.
Right,
because,
not a sustainable practice.
Yeah, the expense of the lights and everything that you guys were talking about, and plus, coupled with the price coming down, and our greedy government getting involved. In some places, it's 35%, and they also tax the growers. They charge them on a fee, annual fee, on a per square foot basis.
Wow.
So you're being taxed.
Yeah.
And that's why it's legal. It's all about money.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
We knew that was going to happen.
Well, so many people, though, in the past have been incarcerated because of this stupid little weed. That we certainly, that's one of the
good outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the strongest reasons to legalize it was to get the law enforcement off of people's back, because it,
Watch murder.
it's about as stupid as it can get.
Law enforcement is a joke.
Well,
no law enforcement, especially up in the Emerald Triangle. They want the hippies to kill each other off. And watch that series. It's very enlightening. It's a documentary.
I think you should check your prices, though, Fred, because all the knowledge that I have is that the price actually is plummeted, and what people are getting now is very low
in California.
Well, but he said they could sell it back east.
No, this is stuff that ends up back east, because there's so much going to the clubs, etc. right now, that there's just that market is saturated. Anyhow, that's my information.
Yeah. All right.
Well, and it's kind of.
All I'm saying is the black market's still thriving because up in the Emerald Triangle, because they've been priced out. When you add your taxes, there's only up there on the Murder Mountain thing. There was only a handful of legal growers because of the paperwork, the fees that you have to pay up front. And it is conducive to having big pharma come in, or tobacco companies.
Definitely is.
It is. Yeah, because when the government gets involved, they just want money for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, we have another caller on the line. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name?
My name's David.
Hi, David.
Hi there.
Hi, David.
Why can't we call it marijuana?
Well, this is one of my neighbors in Tamales is on a. She's saying that marijuana was called marijuana as a way of putting down the drug because it was being used by Mexican immigrants coming in, and back in the 30s, after Prohibition went away, they started on, instead of calling it cannabis or hemp, like it always used to be called hemp, they started calling it marijuana, and that because it sounded more exotic, and it pointed out that
they started calling it cannabis.
No, they started calling it marijuana in America instead of hemp or cannabis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't we call it marijuana now? Why do we?
Because Venta doesn't want you to.
This is Venta in Tamales will come and beat you up. She's on a mission because it has racist overtones that were there from 80 years ago. Yeah.
So the Mexicans, even though they are from Latin America, they can't pronounce the Latin word?
Well, they can, of course, if they call it marijuana, but they don't. When it became marijuana in legalization speak, right? And it became a thing. It's like, what else would you call it? I don't know what the similar thing would be. Like moonshine, if it's when they were trying to, during Prohibition, it wasn't alcohol. They didn't call it alcohol. We're drinking alcohol. It was moonshine.
I think there's a split going on here. We've got the David school that says
you can
marijuana.
call it anything you want. It's just
you were correcting.
I'm in solid.
Brand, I guess.
Oh well, that's
Yeah, he's trying to uphold the mission.
Did it.
That's me. I'm just playing around.
Okay, well here's why I called though.
Yeah.
I called because marijuana has
weed.
It almost killed me, and it saved my life.
Oh, you want to tell the story?
Oh, my gosh. Really? Can I?
Well, you almost killed me. I am very intrigued.
Okay. Well, I was arrested for possession of marijuana in 1960.
Bye, Fred.
1964 or something like that in upstate New York. And, of course, I pled guilty. I had it. I pled guilty because I had it. I was guilty, obviously. I didn't know anything. And so the judge in this little town was going to give me 1 year in Attica prison.
Attica? Wow.
Attica. Well, that was for $10 worth of marijuana.
Man.
Exactly.
So that's why I say I would have been killed, because
Absolutely.
I would have, as they say in football parlance, I would have gone in as a tight end and come out as a wide receiver. But that's what it would have been. Anyway, but it saved my life because during a period of depression some years ago, I found out that if I smoked just a little bit of this stuff, it was like everything went from black and white and shades of gray to living color. It could turn this beautiful spotlight on, and it wasn't imaginary. It was just I wasn't seeing it. And I seriously think I might very well have taken matters into my own hands if it hadn't been for that.
There you are.
Wow.
I'm sure there are lots of stories like that.
Yeah.
Well, we should have an hour just dope stories, because that would be really fun.
An hour of dope stories. Hey.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Why not? A follow-up on this show.
Well, considering that anybody can grow it in their backyard, I mean, that's still the perhaps the best option.
Of course.
And
legal to grow 6 plants. Do it now, people. If you do, I don't actually use cannabis. Donna found the CBD products very helpful when she was having chronic pain, but I can't smoke it anymore. Not that I ever did, because that would be illegal. But
no.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, David. That's a very illuminating story.
Thanks for sharing.
Glad you're still with us.
Yeah, really.
Thank you. I'm going to free up the line for someone else. So carry on. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, David. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Fred. Are you still there? No, Fred's gone.
Well, he can always call back.
So here's there was an article about grow lights and growing indoors and growing outdoors. Why doesn't and there was a comments section that went on for 5 miles, and the diehards are saying it'll grow anywhere, just grow it. I'm living at 4,000 feet in Colorado, and I can grow it in my backyard. And anyway, there was one that struck me. A guy from Canada. Cannabis is an easy crop to grow. 15 years ago, I grew under federal license 60 acres a year for 3 years at my certified organic farm in Ontario, Canada. No special equipment of any kind was needed. We required almost no inputs, and we produced about 2 metric tons per acre, which we sold profitably for $600 a ton. More profitable crop than corn. That's 60 cents a kilo. You can grow it. He says the whole medical cannabis industry is a disgusting money-making and pollution-causing scam run by greedy, connected insiders salivating at their potential profits, reaped from people who mostly can ill afford it. Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, I need to let you know that the Marin County Fire estimates that Lucas Valley Road will remain closed through Thursday evening to complete the work needed to repair the PG&E power lines in the area. So Lucas Valley Road is closed.
Still closed. I thought I'd read earlier today on Facebook that one lane was open, but there you go. Good to know.
It was an amazing storm last night.
Wow. We were quite sheltered in our little house.
Well, you're listening to Let's Talk, and we're talking about cannabis today, and we'd love for you to call in. The numbers are 415-663-8492 or 8317.
Recipes, perhaps, for edibles?
Recipes?
Your favorite brownie recipe?
How to make just butter? I mean, all that. Do you only go organic? Do you only
I can tell you my peanut
go
butter
with
cookie.
small growers? Oh, yeah, okay.
We have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name?
Scotch.
Hi, Scotch.
It's with an A.
Scotch.
Scotch.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to know what the rules are presently as to how much we can grow in our backyard, and if we're encountered, what do we say about growing without a license anymore, etc. Do you have any of that?
I believe that if you hold a prescription for medical marijuana, that gives you the permission to grow the 6 plants.
Oh, really?
That was 18. Am I off?
Okay, so out in this valley, those numbers are all over the place, but we all believe in 6, but not with a prescription.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was without a prescription you could have 6. Anyone could have 6.
Any citizen can grow anywhere in California now. 6 plants.
All right.
That's more than enough for one person.
Yeah.
Well, and frankly,
100 people,
the visits to the doctor to get the prescription, a lot of them, actually a little silly and not necessarily above board. So to not have to do that.
I'm still looking up. But so that's okay. 6 plants.
You were just touching on edibles, and a previous caller talked about no harm to the lungs. So I have a friend whom I want to take to vaping away from burning, and I'd love to, I'm going to go offline, put the radio back on. I'd love to hear what the consensus is about the best way to ingest.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I live with a healer who uses cannabis with his clients, and I would say that if you're going to vaporize, that you use a device that allows you to use actual cannabis product that is real and pure, as opposed to the vials, pre-mixed vials that you can buy in the shops. You know what I mean? So there's different kinds of vaporizers, and we're all familiar with the kids who are all vaping and big clouds of smoke. But yeah, if you're going to use it for healing, I would definitely try to get some very good quality product that's pure, organic, and not pre-mixed.
Okay. I'm just looking at. This is old. Yeah, never mind. How many plants you can grow? It used to be you could get a permit if you had the prescription. You could have 6 mature, 12 immature plants, and 1 mother.
Okay.
Can one grow for their neighbor? For example, if the gendarmes pull into my driveway and say, "Hey, I see all these plants. Could I say, well, I'm growing for the neighbor to the left and to the right?"
We are not legal experts. Let's just put that disclaimer out. I think if you have somebody, one of our neighbors used to grow it in Marshall and he was doing it under license, and he was allowed to sell it to people with prescriptions. So I think that's how.
Well, I'm going to go, but thank you for this program. It's very enlightening. I hope you get more callers.
Well, thanks. And take our legal advice with a grain of salt. Do your own research, please.
Yeah. Thanks for calling, Scotch.
Thanks, Scotch.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. We are just 3 people here who know nothing. That's
well, and things change all the time.
Things change all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was Senate Bill 420. Now, of course, it had to be 420
that's cute.
back a few years ago. So I'm looking at. So I don't know. I thought I'd read that you can grow 6 plants legally. Anyway.
I went to 420 in Golden Gate Park last year.
Oh.
It was a lot of fun.
Good.
What was so fun? Tell us about the event.
It's still illegal to smoke in public, you know.
Yeah. Golden Gate Park was just littered with booze and tables and people having just a good time, getting high, handing out joints which for me, I would never do is take somebody else's, a stranger's offering. But just a lot of happy people wearing essentially
Flowers in their hair.
marijuana paraphernalia, T-shirts and hair pieces and decorated and costumes and
cannabis costumery.
yeah, it was just
Well, and let's not
I thought it was
forget
a lot of fun.
the Rastafarian. It's a religious thing, right? It's the connection to somebody.
I was there because I was gathering signatures for, among other things, legalizing marijuana petition, and I found, excuse me, no one there was interested in signing a petition,
anything.
not even to legalize it.
I'm not putting my name to this. One of my first experiences on arriving in Marin County 25 years ago was there was an indoor grower who got busted across the road, and he and his girlfriend had broken up, and she was some kind of local politician, and she set the feds on him.
Oh my!
And they came in on Christmas morning.
Isn't that special?
Do you
Hauled
remember,
him off,
do you
and they
remember
took away
Marshall and the
everything.
Doberman Pincer? Do you remember that? Somebody taking over where Hog Island is now? Were you in Marshall
No,
then?
No.
Oh, well, this is what I remember. The where Hog Island is, you had a number of people there that have used it, but this was before Warren, the sign painter. Anyway, it was taken over.
Yeah,
It was taken over by a very reclusive guy. He had this Doberman Pincer that sort of made it very unfriendly. You didn't want to go over there. And then he was there for a number of months and then disappeared completely. All of a sudden, they weren't there anymore. The word was that they were waiting for a big shipment to come in. The shipment came in and then they was gone.
They
But
were
it was,
gone.
it was
Just
very,
like the old days, just like
it was
Prohibition
very, yeah,
time.
exactly. Good old Marshall.
The Marshall Tavern with the hatch in the floor, and yeah, the space where the boats could come in under the floor and unload directly into the tavern. Yeah.
And
Wow.
Salmina's also is, I guess, speakeasy.
No. Anyway, so give us a call, won't you? We have a few minutes left here. 415-663-8492. We're talking about the environmental effects of marijuana growing, of legalizing marijuana, the corporate takeover of cannabis, excuse me. We're trying not to use the word marijuana. Our friend Venta is trying to do away with that usage because of its racist connotations from 80 years ago, when it was put on Schedule 1 along with other drugs that were being used by supposedly dangerous non-white people in America.
It's certainly been called a lot of different names.
It has a lot of different names, and yes. So, ganja. Let's go through them, shall we?
Dope,
We can save
weed,
that for our dope discussion
The dope
show.
discussion
dope,
show.
weed,
Our dope stories.
ganja.
So, concerns about the environment, the lighting of indoor growers, pesticide use. You said earlier that they have to be organically certified in some of these stores.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. But good to know where
Well, one of the
it
things-
comes from if you're going to use it, and we're not advocating, of course.
Yeah, one of the things that they do have to put on the packaging for the cannabis product is the Prop 65 cancer warning, which I don't really understand why. And my friend says, well, but they don't have that warning on Roundup, so. Just be mindful that when you see a Prop 65 warning, who knows why that warning is there. But
Are you saying that there's no relationship to smoking, ingesting all that particulate matter and lung cancer?
actually, I've heard that vaporizing concentrated oil into the lungs can actually help to cure the cancer in the lungs.
That
Vaporizing as opposed to smoking.
I'm just
Not the smoke.
I know. I don't know. Call me
Irresistible.
tough to. I just don't get it. I don't get it? No, there are so many anti-cancer claims about, it's like, oh yeah, ingest.
You don't believe it, is what you're saying.
I find that they have done no blind studies. There are no studies whatsoever to
because
confirm.
It can't be studied.
Then quit saying that it's true.
Well, it's we can only go by experience, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and listening to other people's stories. There are people.
And I know people
stories.
who went the marijuana cure and died too.
Okay.
It's not. But I'm not going to say because of that it doesn't work. But I'm not going to say that it does
for everyone.
From anecdotal evidence.
Well, that's all we have right now because it's been banned for so long.
BLTs
but that's part of the tragedy of it all is that we don't know anything about the other cannabinoids.
So that's one of the benefits of legalizing it. Now we're going to begin
research it.
We're going to begin researching it in a big way.
Thank you for listening. This is Let's Talk Call-In Radio. Stephen Hurwitz, Shelley Rugg, and Paul Raffel. Thanks for calling. And let me just say that KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.